Hello everyone, I'm Ruqayya Islam and today I'm going to give a book review on the famous classic book Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus, written by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Before going to the book review, I think the novel deserves to have a little discussion on why it's called the Modern Prometheus. To understand it, we need to go back to the Greek mythologies. Prometheus was one of the two titans who snatched away fire from the god for the humanity and suffered eternal punishment. Similarly, here Prometheus is used as a metaphor for Dr. Victor Frankenstein, who dared to create a supernatural being for mankind, unaware of the horrible consequences. Frankenstein is called the world's first science fiction novel. Besides, it entirely fits into the Gothic and tragedy genres. It portrays the fear, the horror of the death, the grief and sorrow of the losses. It demonstrates the scientific experiment of the emergence of the supernatural being and the artificial intelligence. Overall, it depicts the intense emotions of all three genres. Worldwide, people asking who Frankenstein really is, it's simple. He is the Dr. Victor Frankenstein, and his creation, who is a supernatural being or the monster, is said to be the demon, monster, or the creature. The creature does not have any name. So the protagonist of the story is Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Throughout the novel, we see how Frankenstein tells us a story about him and his creation. We see how the doctor grows from childhood as a knowledge-seeking person and later has this urge to create something really big and contributing in the areas of science and biology. We see his soft and romantic relation with the family members, his lover, and his children. So those are the characters which are minor but yet put a lot of influence in his life. The question is, do the characters grow in the novel? Yes, we see a huge change of perception and differences of perspective between the doctor and the monster. We see how each of them have this urge to justify their position and play a victim card, which makes the reader question who is the real monster. So the story plot goes like this, that Dr. Victor Frankenstein tells us how he went to a university and later became a scientist there and did his first scientific experiment. He actually wanted to create life from unanimated objects like the bones, the fluids, the muscles of rotten animals, dead human beings, and the urge of creating something really big. The saddest part of the story is when the doctor finally finishes his work and when he, for the first time, comes to see his own creation, he immediately regrets the decision. He flees away from the creature thinking that it might cause harm to him and his family members and the people around, but he does not take any responsibility of that monster. So it happens to be like he meets his own creation after 2 years, and then there is the conversation between the creature and the creation happens, where the monster tells that he has studied a lot of books, known the social system, how it works, and his own experience in the society. My most favorite part of Frankenstein was when the monster came in front of the doctor and explained how his life was in between these 2 years, how he fought with the world, how he started his life from that experiment laboratory and then he explored the world. He read books like The Paradise Lost, The Sorrows of Ritter, and how he was convinced by the knowledge and how he started to question the humanity, how he had to suffer for the people because of his ugly attire, and how people used to not accept him. And then he started to question that what was the purpose of he's being created. He always wanted to meet Dr. Victor because he always wanted to ask this question, that why did you create me? What was the purpose of creating me? If I am not able to adjust with the society, then why have you created me? So these were the questions from the monster, and the monster was not like a zombie brainless monster. The monster was really a supernatural being. He could have the ability to learn something really fast. He was physically very strong. The story ends with a heavy heart, and that is the very moment when you get the trigger of tragedy. It might make you cry as well. Frankenstein is not just about the horror or the fear. It also has some in-depth meaning into the tragedy. It has meaning of why those horror and unexpected scenarios are taking place in the book. Mary Shelley has used figurative language in the novel, which helps the reader to engage to a wide range of literary words to bring out the exact meaning of the situation. Frankenstein is not a monothematic story at all. It portrays a wide range of themes like how the desire of knowledge might lead you to destruction, misuse of power, and turn into an obsessively reckless person. The Modern Prometheus or Frankenstein is a novel which analyzes the dangers of science, a sensitive and complex exploration of the anxiety between developing your mind and knowing too much. It's about having the entitlement of controlling your own creation through the lens of a universal morality. The novel is about exploring new worlds, new opportunities, and crossing the limits and getting into the forbidden territory. It is a debate between nature versus nurture. It is a conversation between the creature and the creation. We see the world through the lens of a knowledge-hungry doctor. Again, we see the world through the lens of an innocent creature who turns into a monster. We see how the monster had to face torments due to us, like due to the people he lived around. We see how he used to hide from people because he was not welcomed. He had an ugly face and how he was always treated in the worst ways possible. That is where the debate starts, nature versus nurture. Was he a monster when he was created, or we turned him into a monster? The story makes you go through some emotional and moral dilemma of humanity, which makes you question that, is the monster really a bad person? Is he really causing harm, or we are causing harm to him? Is humanity the monster? So there are a lot of questions which come into your mind while you go through the words. Many scholars tried to extract this idea that Frankenstein was influenced by the personal depression, anxiety, and trauma of the author, and that is the reason why we could engage and connect to the characters so well. I think the whole story is quite balanced on both sides of the doctor and the monster, and there is this point of judgment which you can do after reading the story. Frankenstein is one of the most favorite books of mine is because it helped me realize that how mankind is very cruel and always in the run and rush of proving their creativity by destroying the nature. There is a constant competition of intellectual supremacy within oneself, which sometimes make you go away from the moral decisions. So I think it will always help me taking any decision in my life. I will always recommend Frankenstein to everyone, though there are some of the issues which I do not agree to a lot of people, like how they used to depict it as a horror and Gothic novel, which I really think that it mostly covers the tragedy part because there are a lot of losses of life and huge pain, and the ending will actually grab your emotions. So I would suggest everyone to be ready for the book. Thank you for watching. The last video of mine was on Fahrenheit 451. If you missed that video, you can click on the link below and subscribe to my channel, or else Pikachu will be sad.